Welcome to this chat session. I'm delighted to welcome Professor Arvind Raman from Purdue University. Arvind has been an integral part of inception of Plaksha, conceptualizing of Plaksha, everything that we have done so far. Arvind, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, glad to be here.
So welcome. Um, just to start with, Arvind, a little bit about your own journey at Purdue. Purdue has been climbing up and up and up in its rankings, in its stature in the world. It's a destination for engineering researchers, graduate students from all over the world. And your funding has been going up steadily in the last 10 years that I have watched. How has your own journey been as Executive Associate Dean at Purdue?
Wow, that's a that's a big question. I will say maybe just adding one element to what you described is that Purdue is a land grant institution. So it's a public institution that has, as you know, in its DNA, built in the need to actually make higher education accessible to the masses. In other words, to be sort of defined as an institution not based on who's excluded from higher education, but all those who are included. And part of that has been cost of education. And so certainly over the last 10 years, which is sort of the horizon in which I started getting more into administrative duties, there has been sort of a big focus, at the university, the highest levels of the administration, at refocusing on the land grant mission. And part of that has been certainly keeping tuition frozen. It's been frozen for more than a decade, which means that students entering now, inflation adjusted, are paying about 30-40% tuition than the class that started 12 years ago. The class sizes have therefore increased a lot. Students are graduating with much less debt compared to before. And so that is a part of our mission, basically, to be able to make higher education, a high quality education, accessible to the public without asking for more money from the state. So from the get-go, this obviously suggests that if you're going to keep costs fixed and for students, increase student experience, it means it has to become a very innovative place. And I think that's what, under the leadership of President Mitch Daniels, the university really switched to starting to be very innovative, to deal with the bottom line in its duty and mission to serve the state and the nation in its land grant mission. One certainly being making higher education very accessible, but another dimension of it is also economic development, to really contribute to the development of the state of Indiana. Again, ways in which we had been doing it very well, but somehow, again, in the last few years, there's been this, transformational increase in startups and tech startups, and trying to land tech companies to locate in the state, which we've been very successful at doing. So I think I had a chance to work in administration when the university was trying to address the basics of this sort of land grant mission without asking for more money from the state. The only way you do that is you innovate and you focus on hiring great people. That's all you can do, is hire great people and then really innovate in what you do. And so I think it's been a pretty amazing experience to work both on the faculty recruitment side of it, to now more working on the grad and undergrad side of it as well, that I had the chance to do this precisely in these momentous times as we're coming true to our mission, but having to innovate in ways no one had ever done before. How do you do all this? How do you grow research at scale while doing all? How can you be excellent and be at scale and be cheap and accessible? People will say there's no way you can do all these three. So so I think at the end of it, fortunate to be part of this period when we had to grapple with these big questions and out innovate many other places.
You know, on this singular thing, we have so much to learn from Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any other university in US which has frozen its fees for 10 years. That you have been able to do successfully.
Mm-hmm.
This has been personally for me, I have been watching this space of higher education, and it has been incredibly inspirational. The fact that it is doable,
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable, right? We have to learn so much from you on this. You talked about that you have to innovate, and for that you have to get the right set of people, right
Mm-hmm.
kind of faculty members. As a member of our academic advisory board, you have been involved in advising us on faculty hiring. In some of them, you have been directly involved
Mm-hmm.
in the interview panels. How do you see our faculty group right now that we have got, and how it is shaping up in your views?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed, I think, uh, three parts to my observations about Plaksha's faculty. One is, very interestingly, that you could probably not have anticipated this, but they're very close to students. Um, it is, I mean, the culture from the get-go somehow has been said to be valuing students. And the interactions I've seen are very close, very, I think, intimate, very open, which at least in my undergraduate institution, these kind of things would never happen. This kind of,
Right.
students aren't treated treated like this, and so that is the first thing I noticed. I mean, who knew? When you bring people together, you don't necessarily know how that culture sets in. So whether it's the individuals we got, but I'd like to think it's the culture that you've created here has been student-centric, focused. They could walk over to any professor, ask about anything. Here's my email. The faculty go, take my email, just write me or call me. You
Right.
know, I was just delighted to sort of see that play out. I think second dimension that I'm seeing is they are taking. It's a very fast. I mean, when you join institutions, it can be often, even a decade or more before you get to be in a place where you're empowered to lead,
Right.
to do these things, right? Where here we're seeing, faculty who've just joined who are basically equals trying to design. We were at this meeting about the Center for Digital Agriculture that's going out. They're in the driver's seat and
Right.
they're working out exactly what's needed, what's, things that would normally happen in larger institutions, decade or 2 decades in,
Right.
they're doing now. They're working with companies. They're negotiating deals, within 2 years of being at Plaksha. So I think that is something really, really nice to see is the opportunity that they have the opportunity, and more importantly, they're taking the opportunity, to do this. And the amount of learning that comes from all this is phenomenal. So they're building parts of an institution. Um, I mean, you never when do you have the opportunity to do that normally? So,
Right.
it's really really nice to see. Thirdly, uh, it's very interesting to see that adaptability. If there's one thing I think that defines a lot of the faculty who've been hired, you look at what their PhDs are. First of all, they're from the finest institutions in the world, right? So they've got all the pedigree from everywhere. Now, they could choose to come back and just work on exactly what their PhDs
Right.
and postdocs and, exactly that, keep going. Almost to a T, I'm noticing each one of them has developed
Right.
these, plus X, plus Y, plus Z
True.
things that are, and so soon and so quickly. So that adaptability, flexibility, in them it's honestly been pretty amazing to see, right? So,
We have been very fortunate to have the kind of set of faculty that we have got,
mhm,
and of course we are continuing our journey
mhm,
with your help. uh, we have also requested you to craft out policy for faculty members uh, with other committee members. So when you look forward, you know as you know, we are reimagining
Mhm.
everything,
Mhm.
not just technical education, but how faculty work in these universities, how research is done, right? How outreach gets done. So, from policy perspective, I mean, you are suggesting some really radical things too. So, how do you think we can, policy wise, encourage faculty to excel in teaching, research, outreach, all of these kinds of things? What if any, particular pointers you can give, from policy perspective that we can build in?
Yeah, I think the one thing I think Plaksha is also trying to do is uh, put an emphasis on impact, and I'm very curious to see how that plays out. We've tried to do that, certainly at Purdue Engineering, and it's led to, over cycles as faculty get promoted, the discussion of what that really means has been happening in the committees that are debating all these. Faculty themselves are trying to think through, and it's not easy to think through. So I'm curious to see how it all pans out for Plaksha, and I do hope, as a tech institution, engineering fundamentally is ultimately about creating solutions for people and society. So until that last element happens, it's not tech, it's not engineering, it's not
Right.
impact. I'm curious to see how all that, I think, pans out here. But I think holding the bar high in terms of that would be a good place. It's very easy to say, yeah, I did this, and it, it got taken up by this company, and is being used. Fine. Is that impact? No. I mean, it is impact, but can you put a little more things to it? Can we say that, hey, it's being used by millions of products being sold by this company? Can you say that? Or
Right.
is it just they took it and used, we don't know where it went into?
Right.
Um, and often that's very hard to track, but the faculty need to get used to kind of downstream impact, being in touch with the companies they worked with. Hey, where does it go? Did it make it? Have that active interest in uh, the intellectual contributions they've made to a company, to stay in touch, to see, did that go, what happened, kind of tracking that, I think, becomes important. And I hope that happens. And I do hope the bar is held high for impact, and the bar is held high for excellence in teaching and research, as well. So um, and again, it's not a question of numbers. I do certainly hope that at Plaksha it doesn't evolve to a bean counting approach, so many papers and not. I think the best way to counter against that is develop a culture where from the get-go, a faculty member who does work in robotics understands enough to be able to read papers from a faculty member who does biosystems.
Right.
So there's no substitute for actually reading other people's work and judging the quality and excellence of a work, rather than looking at, hey, so many papers, so many numbers,
Right.
uh, you know.
Yes.
And usually in large institutions, it's hard to develop that ability to go across and go, okay, I'm happy. I've been following this field. I can actually read an article from a biosystems person and kind of judge something. I can learn something from it and move. Where in large organizations, at some point, they become so siloed that they have no sense. The first reaction is, I don't know anything about the technical
Right.
content
Yeah.
of this, so I'm going to rely on letters. I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope collectively at Plaksha, uh, as it grows, the faculty grow with each other, and each other really starts understanding the different areas of, where the bottlenecks are in the different field, and that should be a part of the selling points to new faculty coming in. Hey, if you might be working in robotics, but at Plaksha, you're, whether you like it or not, you're going to learn about biology.
Right.
You're going to get involved in it,
True.
and you'll be looking at articles and learning about all this stuff. So it's a place where you're really kind of going to become a omni tech, kind of a person eventually.
Just the way you described that, faculty members have to keep track of where their product is going or
Right.
where the research
Yeah.
in what product.
Yeah.
it's going and what a company is doing with that product, right? You have to be intimately
Yep.
involved in it.
Yep.
That was your message,
Yep.
that you have to be intimately
Yep.
involved. The first thing that you pointed about our faculty members, that they are so involved with students, that's with exactly the same
Right.
philosophy. Our students are also our products,
Yep.
right? So we want to be involved and we want to see their growth.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be involved in their growth
Mm-hmm.
after they graduate.
Yep.
Where are they going?
Yep.
What are they doing? And, we see the landscape of academia changing, that people will be coming back to universities when they're in their 40s, in their 50s, even in their 60s, right? Because now, we are going to live for 100 years or so. So then you have to keep coming back to learn new skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this kind of investment in people where, they feel welcome,
Mm-hmm.
where they feel recognized,
Mm-hmm.
respected, wanted,
Yep.
that's the kind of university we want to build here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the research products, right, that you want to keep track
People
of.
products.
Yeah, people products that you want to keep track of.
Yeah.
Very well said. So along those lines, we are always looking for faculty members who are not these straight-jacketed PhDs, but who are looking for different expressions, right? Who think laterally, who think
Yep.
differently, right? And you have been in interviews. We are continuously looking for those kinds of candidates who will make this difference. Um, do you see that our universities, top universities, are able to produce many such graduates today?
Mm.
Or, I mean, that's the pool of talent we are looking at, right? Um, of course, there are a lot of PhDs coming out, but when we interview them, we want this different kind, who is more entrepreneurial, more innovative about education. Um, so, what's your sense? You have interviewed so many candidates for your own university.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see this new talent pool?
Yeah, I think when you look at fresh talent that's coming out from PhDs and postdocs, it's not difficult to look into to look into CVs and experiences to see if people have already done. And what I look for there is specifically the ability of a faculty candidate to uh, speak different languages.
Hmm.
So it's not the same to say that, hey, I collaborated with somebody.
Right.
Um, okay, that's one level of looking for, trying to understand what are the different disciplines that have like different languages associated with them, and when you collaborate with someone across, then that gives you a sense.
Right.
But you can go a little further in terms of, do you actually publish in venues that speak a different language or expect
Right.
a different language compared to, if you work in nanoscience but you're publishing in biochemistry, I know the language is different in
Right.
biochemistry compared
Correct.
to nanoscience and stuff. So I think there is certainly there is a trail that people leave if they've had those. But honestly, many people's ability to move laterally is that potential is unrecognized through their experiences. You never know, somebody who's straight-jacketed PhD comes in, uh, and you just never know what experiences completely open them out
Right.
to
True.
everything else. So I don't know where to go right with this. My point is, if I were to judge on make a prediction model, on whether this individual is going to be that lateral mover thinker. I mean, certainly in some cases, based on past history, you can tell. But I wouldn't use that as the only metric for judging, because humans have infinite capacity to adapt.
True.
They just need to realize they
True.
can do it, and that realization can come, like a bolt of lightning sometime. You just never know.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. And we want those individuals because the kind of undergraduate programs we want to run, are not the programs that ran in 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking at the future. We are
Mhm.
looking at 21st century
Mhm.
programs.
Mhm.
And those are all interdisciplinary programs.
Mhm.
Now, students get confused. Undergraduate students get confused that if I go to robotics and cyber physical systems, for example, am I going to lose out
Mhm.
on depth in, say, if I were in mechanical engineering or in electrical engineering, right? So it confuses them. You know, what will happen after I graduate? Will I be able to get a job in these disciplines? I have no confusion. I'm sure you don't have any confusion, but students do,
Mhm.
right? And rightly so, because overwhelmingly you look at academics, you see all those
Mhm.
departments everywhere. So, what will be your advice to students? How should they look at at this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that if you look at the traditional disciplines, let's say mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, while we call it a discipline, these disciplines usually have many vertical threads that comprise it, because an electrical engineer is also a degree that's evolved. A curriculum is designed so that that graduate can go to work in a very diverse set of industries. Same thing with mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineering, for example, you typically have a thread that has to do with solids and materials, something that has to do with fluids and thermal, and something that has to do with sensors, measurement, and controls in some sense, right? And you get depth in all these three, and you kind of put them together through, capstone design, experience that integrates all these things. But the key point, though, is that any of these degrees, traditional degrees, they do offer depth not in a particular discipline but in threads,
Right,
and they
right,
integrate them with the capstone. So if you think about electrical and computer engineering as having threads that have depth that are integrated with capstone, the robotics cyber physical system is doing exactly that. It's not sacrificing depth, it's choosing which threads you choose to integrate.
right.
It's not the depth of the threads, it is which threads do you choose to integrate, and they will overlap a mechanical engineering degree or a electrical engineering degree, and that's okay. Um, Employers are looking for threads uh, and skills that that there be depth, but there are threads. What are the different things you're looking for? So uh, a mechanical engineer, for example, would be easily able to enter many different industries that a robotics and cyber physical systems person wouldn't, because they will use the other threads. They can use the thermodynamics. They can work on engines. They can work
Right.
on fluid mechanics and those kind of things. But robotic cyber physical systems, the thread connected with systems measurements and controls that is also in mechanical engineering is actually far deeper in
Right.
RCPS.
Right.
So they can anytime a mechanical engineer chooses a degree or a job that's more aligned with that side of the house, well, RCPS does better in that sense, right? And the same thing in electrical engineering as threads you choose. So it's not about the depth, it's not about the breadth, it's about what are the threads you choose to build up your breadth,
Right.
and you choose one that overlap electrical mechanical engineering.
And that's what interdisciplinarity is
Right,
all about, right?
right,
As you said, there were threads in
right,
these disciplinary areas.
right,
So this is one bucket. You have threads.
right,
Here is another bucket. You have
right,
threads. You remove the boundary
right.
and you say, hey, you have a bunch of threads.
Yeah,
Pick up threads which are really useful
right,
for 21st century
right, exactly.
engineering. And then here it pops,
Yeah,
right? That these are the threads from
right,
electrical, mechanical.
right,
This is what students need to see,
right,
right? To be able to understand this
right,
and come out of the traditional fold,
right.
right? Fantastic. Um, Along these lines, we at Plaksha, we have, this very well because you have been uh, in Plaksha's DNA right from the beginning. Um, Giving students a view of research or research
Mm,
experience right from the beginning has been one of our major, educational threads, right? And along that line, we have had several of our TLP students go to Purdue
Hmm.
for their capstone
Hmm.
projects, right? They have worked with several faculty members there. This has been happening year after year. You have watched this. This
Hmm.
has happened under your watch. How do you see the success of it? And going forward, do you think that this is something that we must continue and
Oh my
accelerate?
goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the TLP program. I've seen it grow. Uh, I tell people about the TLP program as an example that a great university can be started without a building. You just need a tent in principle, so
Yeah.
long as you bring great faculty and great students together. In fact, that's the essence of the university, right? Great teachers, great researchers, great inspiring students. Just put them together and magic chemistry happens, and an institution gets built from that. Um, and TLP, started like that, right? That was before even these buildings came up
True.
and it started. I think what I really like about the TLP model, probably the most important thing is the kinds of students it attracts. I have spoken to several of them. They are not the, the straight linear path
Right.
students.
True.
You know, if you were to look at these are all, sort of Brownian motion, linear paths. They are individuals who've been exploring many different things, coming from very different backgrounds. Um, they could be people who have had maybe a mathematics background or social sciences background and felt, hey, maybe I need to get that tech edge on it, and I'm willing to, do the deep dive into coding and sort of understand MLAI, but I want to apply it. The reason is I want to apply it for social science impact. I want to, apply it for impact on this. Or it could be someone from a traditional engineering degree,
Right.
taken a traditional degree and going, goodness, this I need more diversity and breadth. I want to see different forms of MLAI. I want to see grand challenge problems. I want to work with people who are not mechanical engineers,
Right.
and I want to work with entrepreneurs and startup companies. And I've tried many other things in my life, and I'm not satisfied. When you create something that answers to a hunger in these kind of individuals, right, who are non-linear, moving around, here and there, and providing the creative outlet for what they want to do, that alone, I think, is a key part of the success. Is the kind of students you're attracting. As I said, you bring the right students, and they're leaders, by the way. They're leaders even before they come in. And Plaksha is just providing a place for them to grow and gain new skills and move on into the world. So that's really great. I must say that as far as research is concerned, certainly my colleagues who have hosted the TLP, students for their research stays, just sing praises. They, again, it has partly to do with the fact that they are not the linear student.
Right.
They're much more mature. They probably have had other work experiences, elsewhere before they joined TLP, and it's that combination of things that just allows them to quickly make progress and quickly learn languages of another discipline and do really well in research. So our faculty, at least those who have supervised the TLP, students, have been just really over the moon with them.
Thank you for that feedback. We are very proud of our TLP students. They are a different breed, as you
Hmm.
said. They just distinguish
Hmm.
themselves, in their approach of things. Um, you know, taking this research thread, infusion of research thread in education, we want to do that for undergraduates as well. As you know, several of our undergrads are involved in research projects from year one. From first year, they have done projects in first year uh, that are related to research of faculty members. Um, with Purdue, this is our third year of partnership
Hmm.
already, and we are really, really glad how it is shaping up from our viewpoint. We certainly want to see even our undergrads getting exposure to research problems at Purdue, through research internships, uh, student exchange programs, faculty mobility. We want to increase that with Purdue. From your vantage point, how do you see this shaping up in coming years? We want to increase this interaction, many points of contact and through the year programs for students to have exchanges, faculty to have exchanges. Jitesh was here,
Yeah, sure.
one of the faculty members from Purdue, spent 9 months with us. Bob Kenley is coming, right? So, we want more faculty members to come visit us and also our students to go, your students to come here. How do you see this from your point of view?
Yeah, no, I think what I like about the engagement, Plaksha has had with Purdue has been it's very broad based. There are lots of I think faculty champions at Purdue for Plaksha, and I think trying to be intentional in, and this was part of actually your strategy of having partnerships with a few places, so that when you visit, you're able to visit places frequently, and you bring the players together who have contributed, grow the circle of engagement. It allows you to do things in ways that the cohort of those at any partner institution that are vested in
Right.
the growth and success of Plaksha, that circle is reinforced and keeps growing. Uh, and I think so that should continue. We hope you keep visiting.
Of course.
And next time we'll have you do a technical talk also.
Sure.
um, and I know because there are many colleagues, as who follow your research and follow everything that you've done in research. So I think that is a key part of it. Keeping that circle together um, is important. A next step is going to be, because the universities are all, like, after the pandemic, the international side is slowly waking up. These were offices that mostly remained dormant during the pandemic, but they're slowly waking up. And I think the right strategy is to work with the faculty members who have been champions of this, and the units and departments they are in. So they speak to their department heads and say, we need to be more intentional about this, and build it up. So you've sown the right seeds by having those faculty keep visiting, and keep expanding that circle, and those faculty members will drive the exchanges that happen at the departmental level.
Excellent. Excellent. We are looking forward to it.
Yeah.
As we were talking, it just occurred to me that both of our universities have PU as our initials.
Oh, right.
Plaksha University and
Yeah,
Purdue
yeah, yeah,
University.
yeah.
It's
I hadn't thought of that.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It just realized right now. Um, this is very exciting, and with you, we have been able to brainstorm. You know, um, threadbare without having any sort of apprehension of
Mhm.
being misjudged, misread, or anything, which is an incredible freedom, right? For example, when we were talking about introducing a new major, you came up with this idea of it should be electronics, photonics, and quantum engineered systems, right? We are thinking about this, and we are um, talking to you together. Purdue is moving, big time in semiconductor technology,
Mhm.
and that's what this is. Electronics, photonics, and quantum engineered systems as a major for the future, right? For 21st century, it does look like this got to be one of the main, training uh, disciplines, right? For upcoming technologies. What's your thought on this?
Yeah, so it's fascinating that even 4 years ago or 5 years ago, the only conversations people were having were about beating Moore's law, and okay, how are we going to deal with that? Go past the 4 nanometer node, and you
Right.
know,
Right.
and all the technologies needed for it. And mind you, all the equipment needed for pushing semiconductors to these high levels. I mean, it's a tiny number of places that makes them.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
AMSL, this, that, and you just put it together. The barrier to entry as an industry in this space, especially advanced microelectronics and semiconductors, huge.
Very high.
It's probably even higher than entering the aircraft making business, in some sense.
Right.
Um, so, but for all that, 5 years ago, all the talk was, hand wringing was really about, how computing needs are going up, ML, AI, all this going crazy. Um, the need for and the idea of vertically integrated chips, where, for example, you could have maybe GM producing its own chips, but that are designed for, all the particular needs that its vehicles might have. And so you're seeing a lot more of vertical integration in industries for chip manufacture, as opposed to, hey, standard chips that we end up
Right.
programming and using in different places. So a lot of changes were happening, and people, the big picture was, how are we keep going to, doubling the number of transistors, right? And how is that all going to happen? And people are interested in quantum, and what are things to disrupt? How are we going to go behind? Maybe it's optics, maybe it's photonics, maybe it's quantum that's going to break. And quantum is, of course, huge if and when
Right.
a
It does break
scalable
through. Yeah.
at scale,
Yeah. Yeah.
qubit system, can be
Correct.
produced, then certainly all bets are off, right?
Right.
But in the meantime, what ended up happening is, so that was always important, that forward-looking. What has happened in the last 3 years is all of a sudden we're worried about our bread and butter chips.
Right.
You know?
Right. True. Very
Right?
true.
Not this high-end next end. It's like, my God, the chip that works my automobile is based on is, where is it
Right.
coming from? Automobiles sales are getting delayed, on receiving them, not because of the tires are missing. The whole vehicle is there. It's the chip that's missing.
Right. So
And there
true.
are delays,
Mm.
So what has been happening is this, the attention has all gone to reshoring, onshoring. It's a national security sort of situation. Most countries are feeling that. And that suddenly has brought up this issue of, hey, we don't have fabrication skill, we don't have workforce shortages. So the interest has gone to the bread and butter of semiconductors, right? Uh, but once that settles, the dust settles, our challenge to Moore's law is not gone.
Right.
It's going to be
True.
back. So I think a good strategy here is to deal with both the present, but also the future, not just say present and, oh, we got to quickly deal with this work, but think about that grand challenge isn't going to go away
Right.
once the chip supply chains are all reordered and, decoupling happens, etc. So I think a wise approach, one way or the other, whether it's for dealing with, the workforce crisis of semiconductors, or it is with dealing with beyond more. If that isn't a grand challenge, what is?
True.
And Plaksha is designed to, deal with that grand challenges. So I think it's worthwhile thinking of launching more efforts in that space, not just because of the expediency of the urgency right now from chips, but it's worth looking into for sure.
So my last question to you. So far we have been talking about technology, engineering, right? All of this. Uh, One of the grand challenges in academics,
Mm,
particularly in tech, is to weave in humanities
mm,
in a more meaningful way
mm,
than what we have done. I mean, you took humanities courses, I took humanities courses, but that was not the kind of integration that one is looking for. One is really looking for integration where these courses, humanities courses, social sciences courses, are also taught by faculty members
mhm,
who understand technology,
mhm,
who haven't been brought up in their silos,
mhm,
right? Then there is a connect, and we want to create engineers. We want to train engineers who can feel the pulse of society,
mhm,
who have empathy
mhm,
with all sections of society, right? Um, that kind of training, if you want to provide, then to me it looks like it is one of the grand challenges of education. How do we bring those elements in engineering education?
mhm,
And at Plaksha, we are totally committed to that.
mhm,
What's your what's your take on it?
mhm.
What's your suggestion? What's your advice to us?
No, going back to my mentor, who was the past president of the National Academy of Engineering. He had a very succinct way of defining what engineering is, and he said, ultimately it's three pieces that make it up, right? So one is about creativity, creating. Second is about solutions or adding value, and the third is people and society. So there's an element of creativity, there's an element of adding value, and element of humanity is there. All three come together in engineering. However, most of engineering curricula, they don't worry about the people
That's right.
people and society side of it, and it is one of those grand overlooked challenges. There's no doubt, the National Academy recognized this as a part of the Engineer for 2020. That really the big issue here was on at scale how to develop these soft skills, these professional skills. By the way, that includes communication. It includes empathy, social context. It includes leadership, self. There's a bunch of these elements that sort of teamwork, collaboration. And so, over time, many universities had developed programs, but they had to develop it sort of outside the normal curriculum, because the normal curriculum was pretty siloed on things, wasn't dealing with it. So these professional skills-based approaches, 4-credit options, talking of something like EPICS, engineering projects and community service, vertically integrated projects, all these were set up at many of the large engineering schools to precisely deal with that, the whole, those dimensions of it at scale. They've been extremely successful, by the way. Industry employers look for people who have gone through this, because they know that students who have gone through this have exactly all these elements sort of built into it that wouldn't be present otherwise. But those are great. I think those are needed. But there's another intersection. So if you look at this, creating solutions for people and society, the people and society side, by really intentionally, and certainly the Grand Challenge Studios at Plaksha is intentional about that, tries to get them to work on community problems as well. And so you're already building that whole thing up here. But there's another space where there's an overlap actually with the liberal arts, which is the creativity side of it, which we don't explore very often. But in thinking of creative solutions, it turns out creativity at its own as a form of fundamental human expression, creativity in the minds of an engineer, that expression has a lot to do with creativity that's at the mind of an artist as well. So what another place that we have not explored a whole lot is when in the part where tech and engineers are dealing with the creative side of things, having artists there, musicians,
Right.
there could be intersections between digital art, digital music. I think that is a very important space to try and explore, along with the professional skills that is already there, to really use both the left and the right side of the brain, stimulate them in the creative process. I think that's, again, an expression. I would love to see, for example, the makerspace here also having art.
Right. Right. Yes.
I would love to see artists doing, doing pieces there, making things for art. I think would be great as well. So I think that synergy between art and making is also another place I think to explore, and I think many engineering programs need to think about that as well.
One of our academic advisors, Sanjay Sharma from MIT, he is also very, very keen on doing this. We are so blessed to have people like you, like Sanjay, as our academic advisors. Great. This has been fantastic. Any last words of advice?
Oh, no. I just always happy to come back here, and I really enjoy meeting the students. And on this trip, it's a short trip, but I already met with undergrads. I even met with some of the TLP students.
Oh, fantastic.
And I had a chance to really speak with them about what they like, what they don't like, what they're, I'm just amazed at the students, and how not only curious, but how they don't have a fear of exploring. And I think that speaks to the culture at Plaksha. An institution, a true institution, 21st century institution of higher learning, needs to be a place where students feel free to explore.
Right.
And I feel that when I talk to students here. They kind
Wonderful.
of see their own journey, they explore, and they talk to you like explorers, which is wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
It has
thanks.
been such a pleasure,
Yeah,
Arvind.
thanks.
Thank you.